So I want to give an explanation about table relationships and referential integrity for you here in this video. Okay. So just to show you, I have a student table here with all this data in it, and I have a tutor uh, table with data in it. It's just for the student table, it's contact information, and tutors, the contact information. And then there's the tutor ID. Okay. And so how are those two, the student and the tutors related? Well, they meet with each other, right? Tutors provide tutoring sessions for students, and students receive tutoring from tutors. And so when you have a situation where you have students that can be tutored by many tutors, and tutors can tutor many students, so you have a many-to-many relationship there, right? So so you want to be able to build a many-to-many relationship. And a many-to-many relationship in Access anyway is simply two one-to-many relationships with a buddy in the middle. It's called a bridge table or an intermediate table. So I'll go ahead and demonstrate that. So you've got here students, and I'll bring that out here. And then tutors, I'll bring out over here. Okay. And then I'm going to have an intermediate table here, which in this situation is tutoring sessions. Okay. So I want to relate these. So how am I going to relate them? What I can do is I can relate the student ID here to the student ID here in tutoring sessions. And I'm going to turn on referential integrity, and I'll also cascade update the related fields. And I'll click on create. Okay. And over here, I'll click on tutors and the tutor ID, and I'll click on enforce referential integrity and update related fields. Okay. So now I've got a many-to-many relationship. So let's demonstrate referential integrity, okay, from the standpoint of there is no data in here right now. So there is data in the student table, and there's data in the tutor table, okay? But there's no, there's no data here entered into the sessions table. So let's go ahead and enter some data into this table right here for tutoring sessions. And let's say I go and I put in 100, and then I put in S000, I don't know, a lot of zeros. Okay, maybe that's one too many. And then the session date, we'll make it today. And the begin time, maybe we'll say 8 a.m. And the end time maybe is at 10 a.m. Okay, so I'm done entering my record. Now, if there's no problem with this record, if this tutor ID is in the tutors table, and if this student ID is in the students table, because remember we turned on referential integrity in our relationships. So this ID must be in the tutor table and this ID must be in the student table. Okay? And so if that's the case, then when I click here on this new record, it'll just save it. But watch. It gives an error. You cannot add or change a record because a related record is required in table tutors. So I'll say OK, and so I'll change this to 1 because I know there's 1 in there. And let's say I change this one to 100 just to make sure. And then I click out of it again. Okay, it says you cannot add or change a record because a related record is required in table students. So this guy right here is not in the students table. That record is not there. Okay, so if I want it to accept this record, then I'm going to have a related number, and I'm hoping this is right. Let's see. No. Let's see. Let me try it again. There. Okay, it took it that time. So then that means that there is a tutor ID, number 1, and there is a student ID with a whole bunch of S's and this is 1-8. And if we go over here and we look and we come down here, yes, Batman has that ID. And then if we come over here to tutors, Paula Abdul has tutor ID 1. So there is referential integrity. You can relate from the students table to the tutoring sessions table, and you can relate from the tutor table to the tutoring sessions table. So I've demonstrated how when you're entering data, if you have this set up already, that you will receive errors if you don't have the numbers in the parent table. Okay, the primary keys are not in the parent tables. Okay, you only get those errors if you've got your relationships set up, okay, with referential integrity turned on. Okay. So what if you don't have referential integrity turned on? So let's go ahead and we'll turn this off, and I'll say OK. And oops, I have my table open still, so I'm going to go ahead and cancel and click on cancel. I'm going to come over here to tutoring sessions and I'm going to close it. And I'll say yes. And I'll close this guy and I'll close this guy. Now I don't have a problem. Okay, I won't get any errors. So now here I'm going to go ahead and I'll edit the relationship and I'll turn off referential integrity and I'll say OK. Oops. So anyway, so now referential integrity is not turned on. So let's go ahead and go back to tutoring sessions, and I'm going to put in tutor ID 500, okay, and then I'll put in S00000100, I guess, and session ID or session date, okay, session date 22nd, and I'll put 7 a.m. and 5 p.m. Okay, so you saw that quickly there was an error that came up but I wanted to explain this to you a little bit. I wanted to finish my entering my record before I made the error come up. So ignore that other error. Anyway, so here you have tutor ID 500. Now I don't have a 500 in there. And I also don't have a 100 in the student table. So I don't have a 500 in the tutor table, and I don't have this S number in the student ID table. Ugh. Okay, so if I try to click out of this record, watch what happens. It says you cannot add or change a record because a related record is required in table students. It did not care that this guy right here wasn't in the tutors table because that table doesn't, or that relationship doesn't have enforced referential integrity turned on. Okay? So that doesn't matter. But in this case, we got that error because referential integrity is still turned on for the student table relating to the tutor sessions. Okay? So let's change this and see if we can get rid of this error. Okay? So once again, over here, we don't have referential integrity turned on, but we do have it turned on over here. And you can tell because there's a 1 and a many or infinity sign here that tells me that referential integrity is turned on here. But here, there is no referential integrity turned on. So what is going to happen now? Let's go back and look once again. Here we don't have the record 500 in here, but we do have the record 500 here. Okay? So no 500 here, 500 here. This would be the parent, this would be the child. Okay? So let's see what happens when I go to try to turn on enforce referential integrity. Okay? And I'll say OK. And it gives you an error. It says Microsoft Access can't create this relationship and enforce referential integrity. Okay? And the reason for it is because in this tutoring sessions, the child table has a tutor ID that is not in the parent. And in database worlds, you can't have orphans. Wouldn't that be nice in the real world? But in the database world, you can't. So in order to turn on referential integrity, you have to go back over here to tutoring sessions and you have to fix that. So the way that you can fix it, one of two ways. You can delete the record or you can put in the correct tutor ID. Usually you don't delete the records when you're doing data entry. In the real world, you go and find out what the correct tutor ID is. So just to let you know that. Anyway, so here we have a tutor ID of 1 now, and we know that in the tutors table we have a tutor ID 1, okay, Paul Abdul, okay, and over here we also have a student ID S with a lot of zeros and an 18. And if we go back over here, okay, oh wait a minute, let me go back and look at that again. Oh, we changed it to nope, that's right. Okay, so tutor ID of 1, student ID S with a lot of zeros, 18. Okay, so we didn't change the referential integrity here, but we did here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to double click here. Whoops, sometimes that happens where you have trouble getting it to come up. But so I always just move it around, make it like that. So then it's easier to make it turn black. So I click on it and then I'll double click on it again. And now I'll click on Enforce Referential Integrity, Cascade Update, and it takes it. And remember, the reason why is because the tutor IDs in here are all the same as here. So one thing I want to make sure I point out is that the tutor in this relationship, this is the parent and then this is the child. So any tutor, you can have as many tutor IDs over here as you want. Those same tutor IDs do not have to show up over here, but if you have a tutor ID over here, it must exist over here. Okay. So we talked about many-to-many relationships, right? Where we have two tables and a bridge table or an intermediate table. Okay, and that just makes a two one-to-many relationships, and that's how you handle a many-to-many relationship. So that's the first thing I want to make sure you understand. Then I want you to understand that referential integrity is either set up before you have entered data, or else you can set it up afterwards, and then you can run into referential integrity data issues. And so what I want to make sure that I leave you with is, don't put your data in until you're sure about how you've got your table set up and your relationships set up. It's best to wait on entering data. Otherwise, it can cause you a lot of trouble and a lot of heartache. Okay, thanks very much. Hope this helped.